Menopausal and perimenopausal women, listen up. It's time to take control of your health and comfort, and Winona is here to help. Winona is a telemedicine company for menopause care who believes that your symptoms are real, important, and deserve to be taken seriously. And for many women, this starts with hormone replacement therapy. Winona's HRT is made with plant-based, bioidentical hormones rather than synthetic ones, so it better aligns with your body to offer relief from hot flashes, weight gain, and other uncomfortable symptoms. 80% of women who use Winona find relief within just 90 days. So, what are you waiting for? Get started today. Visit buywinona.com today to start your free visit. With free shipping and the ability to pause or cancel at any time, your path to wellness has zero obligations. Use code SPRING24 at buywinona.com for 25% off your first treatment plan. That's BYWINONA.com for 25% off. Winona. Menopause care made easy. Summer is the season of hot temperatures, outdoor adventures, and refreshing water activities. Summer is also the season of rough on your feet, causing dry, cracked heels and toes. Introducing Babyfoot, the original exfoliation foot peel that contains 16 natural extracts formulated to remove dead skin cells in 3 easy steps. Apply the booties, relax for an hour, then wash your feet. In 14 days, you've got baby smooth skin and your feet have never been softer. Letting dead skin cells build up over time is hazardous to your foot health. Our professional-grade DIY products, like our original exfoliation foot peel, our men's foot peel, or our moisturizing mask, are some of the best foot care products on the market, created with your foot health in mind. Pamper yourself with a spa day from the comfort and convenience of your own home with Babyfoot. If you want a chemical-free, easy-to-use exfoliating process from the company that created the original foot peel, it's time to treat yourself to Babyfoot. Go to babyfoot.com and use the code SUMMERFEET24 and get 20% off your first order with Babyfoot. That's babyfoot.com and use the code SUMMERFEET24.
Hello, and welcome to Too Stupid to Live, a podcast that reviews romance novels $5 and under. I'm your host, Becky Feldman, and who is ready to play some Frisbee on the Quad? I have no idea what I'm talking about. I went to a liberal arts college and we didn't have frisbees or quads. I mean, our frisbee was improv games and our quads were classrooms that we all called creative movement studios. Needless to say, we are reviewing a college romance today. This is a book in a series that I find myself so captivated by. It's the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy, and today we're talking about the third book in the series, The Score, which is currently $4.99. And today's guest is Laura Yamin, host of the What to Read Next podcast and the most reliable source for book recommendations. Seriously. If you are in a life or death situation, and in this situation, the only way for you to live is to quickly decide on a book to read, Laura is the one you go to. And I had a blast chatting with her on this episode. So please enjoy this review of The Score. Well, Laura, welcome to Too Stupid to Live.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. So excited to chat with you.
I'm so excited to chat with you. I'm a big fan of your podcast. I'm a big fan of you. I'm so excited to talk about this book with you. But before we begin, let's talk about your reading journey, because you started off with Sweet Valley High. That was your jam.
That was my jam. So I started with Sweet Valley High and Teenage Love Stories and Lunar McDaniels, those dying, the girlfriend, boyfriend dies at the end of the novel.
Oh, sure.
And so, but my jam was Sweet Valley High all the way through. Sweet Valley College, Sweet Valley High, whatever it was. I did read Kids. I started with Kids, I think the Kids in the Tween edition, but then there were 2 childish for me at the time, so I upgraded to the high school because that's what I strive. I strive to have a high school just like Jessica and Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah. They were so ideal. They just I don't know, they solved mysteries too. I remember. Yeah.
And mysteries that had they dealt with social issues like kidnapping, cults, prom disasters. And it's hella problematic because I read them back now 30 plus years later. I've gone back and read them and I'm yeah, they're really problematic. But at the time they were great.
Right. What was like something that was like problematic about them? Like, I mean, I understand, you know, it was written whenever, so I'm sure there was whatever, but is there an example that you can think of off the top of your head?
So I just reread one that had a deaf character, and
Mhm.
so but Jessica couldn't understand her, and she was like, she's standoffish. I'm like, she's deaf. She's not hearing you.
Right. Mhm.
Or when Elizabeth got kidnapped and Jessica is decides that she's going to ignore Elizabeth for the whole night because she was trying to get into bed with the guy with the deaf sister, who was standoffish. She did not like her, and then she realized, like, oh my gosh, Elizabeth's getting kidnapped, like we got to find her. But she was like, I lied to my parents and told them that I knew where Elizabeth was all along. So
Mhm.
it's Jessica was very selfish,
Right. Yeah. Things were just so different back then. I recently watched Children of a Lesser God with like
Mhm.
Laurie Matlin or something. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I was just like remembering, like, oh my God, this is like I think I might not have been born when it came out, but it took the world by storm, it was nominated. And then like watching it again, I was like, oh my God, what
Yeah.
message is this sending? I'm
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting to say, like, the 80s and 90s where our parents were not as involved as the parents of like this generation. Like, we didn't have internet, so our entertainment was just like, these like very formulaic romance novels. At least, as a kid, like growing up, like this is what the ideal high school should look like. Like,
Mhm.
popular kids will do this way, or this kids will do this way, and like this is your life is supposed to be. Like, it wasn't like we had the internet. We started to have the internet in the 90s, late 90s, but we didn't have social media. We didn't have like Facebook. We didn't have Instagram or any of that stuff.
Oh
So
yeah.
it was very insular. And so we got our news from teen magazines like 17 and Teen and YM. And
Mhm.
then we had books like Sioux Valley High and like Babysitter's Club, which your Babysitter's Club was more less problematic, but there's still like it was like trying to drive issues, but we're not like it was pretty white, growing
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, okay, you transitioned from Sweet Valley High. So what was like your next kind
My
of
So I was
yeah.
in college, and so I want to preface this. I read Sweet Valley High when I was in high school, and I was in Puerto Rico.
Mhm.
So it was like my introduction to American TV, to American stuff. So it was like, oh, this is what American people look like. This is what
Mhm.
they do. So when
They
I
all
went,
have twins.
they all have twins. They all are popular. They're all cheerleaders. Everyone's a
Mhm.
cheerleader.
It's
I don't
true.
know.
Yeah.
Not have that in Puerto Rico. And so I went to college at Syracuse, and I think I got overwhelmed. I was a reader all along, and I got overwhelmed, but I think it was a summer of junior and senior year. I was living in Texas, and I somehow stumbled upon Barnes and Nobles, and I was stumbled upon this is 2001, 2000. I stumbled upon Bridget Jones's Diary, Sophie Kinsella, Jennifer Weiner, Good and Bad, all those chick lit, and that was like the time of the day. Like, that's what you read. You read chick lit, and
Mhm.
so I read pretty much whatever was popular, whatever was New York Times bestseller. I'll have read it at that time.
Mhm. And then so then eventually you transitioned into romance. Like, was there something in between the chick lit
Yeah.
era and then the
So
romance era?
there was YA, there was a little bit of YA, but there was a lot of chick lit. I would say when I was in New York, I moved to New York in 2006, and I stumbled upon, I guess I went back, I stuck around with chick lit, women's fiction, that era for most of that 10 years span.
Mhm.
Then I stumbled upon YA, whatever was popular, but I did not read Twilight. I did not get to Twilight. I was just like, I didn't understand what was the phase about. I was like, no, it's not a big deal. But I did read Hunger Games. I did read Divergent, and that post dystopian era where it's like everyone's dying,
Yeah.
one survivor.
Right. Things are terrible, but we have crushes.
We have crushes. And so I read that, my issue at the time, and this is the issue, and this is the reason why I have a podcast, is because for a long time I did not know what to read next.
Mhm.
I always stumble upon what was popular, and I was like, oh, okay, but I will binge on them, and then I'll be like, I don't have anything else to read. And so I was always a reader, but I just did not have any options. So I did read 50 Shades of Grey, but I did not discover romance there. Like,
Mhm.
I didn't realize there was like a whole genre of romance. I just thought 50 Shades was just like whatever was popular. And so it's setting the tone. I was in 2016. I actually had another podcast where I was asking people like what did they say yes to, like things that are like hobbies and experiences. And I invited this girl who's an entrepreneur, who's like a blogger, lifestyle blogger, entrepreneur. And she was like, well, I want to say yes to adult reading. And I was like, okay, well, I'm a reader, I don't know, like let's see what it will go. So we get on the chat and she mentions all these YA authors. And I was like, well, that sounds like a great idea. But she tells me about BookTube. She tells me that there's this community on YouTube where people talk about books. And I was like, well, let me see what it's all about. And so I remember being like, I discovered, I think, like a couple of booktubers, like the really popular ones, and started reading all these YA, like Sarah J. Maas and like Jennifer Armentrout, like all these like big fantasy novels. But I was like, there must be something else. And so I stumbled upon this girl. She doesn't do YouTube anymore. It's Carolyn, the Wallflower Reader. And she had a video about neo-adult romance. And I was like, okay, well, I work in a college. I want to say I used my first career was working in college. I work as assistant activities director, assistant director, like working Greek Live, working student programming and all those different things. And that was like my first career. I did this for 10 years. And so at the time I have left that career and I was temping. I was trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do in my life. And so I was like, well, it'd be fun to read about college, like just to revisit that. And so that's how I stumbled upon the off-campus series, which is what we're going to talk about. And then I binge read every list that would tell me there was a college experience. I would binge read that series. Mm-hmm. And so that year I had a job where I didn't do much. I only had like 2 hours worth of work. And so I would just read on my phone all day long, and it was a great job. Like,
yeah, that sounds awesome.
It was a great job. I was like, I only got like 2 hours worth of work, and I was like, and then I just read. So I binge read like 276 books from May till like December.
Oh my God.
They were mainly indie. They were not the $9.99 because I was like, I am poor.
Yeah, no. I'm with you on that.
So I was reading what you basically talk about. I was just reading them. I was like, the Amazon algorithm was telling me what to read. I was watching YouTube. I discovered romance YouTubers, and then I discovered romance, and I was like, this is the game changer. So that's been my story.
Love it. And so what ended up making you transition into being like, oh, I need to make this a podcast now, other than like people coming on your show and telling you what to read next? Like, was there another reason?
No, so it was like, I think it was like a year 2017. I almost read a book a day. And and at the time I switched jobs. I was actually like, I switched jobs. I left that job because my contract ended. I was a temp, and the beauty of temp is that sometimes the contract ends and you don't get hired. So I ended up switching jobs. And I remember being like, I had a friend from New York for my New York days, like my first friend in New York, and she was like, she now lives in Nashville, or not Nashville, she lives in Tennessee. And so she was like, we're talking about it. I'm like, we should talk about books. Like, you read a lot of books. She reads a lot of books. She buys a lot of books. She buys a lot of physical books. And I admire her library. I just don't have that library. I have that library in my ebook. And so we were like, we should do a podcast. And I was like, sure. Like, okay, we can talk about books. And so we started our podcast in December 2017, and only one listener took a chance on us. It starts from somewhere.
Been there. Yeah.
And then we just started talking about Christmas books. And at the time I did not read any Christmas romance at all. So I had no idea what the Christmas book market looked like. I was like, well, I don't like Christmas. I couldn't care less about it, but I guess I'll read it. And so we did the podcast together for a couple months. And then I realized I was like, well, I kind of like talking about books, and I would like this to be more regularly than once a month. So I asked her, is it okay for me to just go on my own? And she was like, yeah, that's totally fine, because I don't have to with. And so what the podcast started was first I invited guests, and last time, like, what, I invited like book influencers. It was like, what books do you recommend? And then it got repetitive because people were telling me the same books. And I was like, well, that defeats the purpose, because I need to find out new books to recommend. And so the podcast evolved into authors, because I was like, well, authors will read different books, like, or they'll tell me their books. And so it evolved with authors. And then I was like, well, authors are telling me these different books, which is great, but I kind of want to hear what influencers taught me. So I invited people like you to come back and be like, hey, tell me what books I should be picking up. And that's how the podcast has evolved. It's basically like, what my tastes are and what my interests are, and then trying to figure out like what should I read next, you know.
Yeah. And then you're influencing other people to see what they read next. Cause like there's I think people, I feel this way too with like ending a binge, like finishing a show on Netflix, like binging. You finish a book and then you're just like, oh shit, what do I read now? Like I'm feeling that way now because I finished a score this morning, or no, last night, and now I'm like just already feeling
Same. I don't know. I was like trying to figure out what to pick next. And I messaged Kelly from Boobies and Newbies and I was like, I need a college romance. Tell me what I need to read next, you know?
Mhm.
And even that is still like, I was like, I don't know. I'm still like looking at my Kindle. And it's like, there's always the sense of like, once you read a good book and you have the hangover, or even just read a series and you're like, okay, I need to change up pace, or I need to have some books similar to this, is like, how do I find the right book? How do I find the perfect book that's going to match my mood?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'm so excited about that because I have some questions for you later about like which book should you read when you're going through this.
Yeah.
Um so let's transition into Elle Kennedy. I realized that I had liked her before this is so weird, but like I love her Midnight Rescue series. It's like oh, it hits the spot for me in terms of romantic suspense. And then when someone was like, "Oh, have you read The Deal?" I was like, "Whoa, this is Elle Kennedy!" Like, it was amazing. So you read The Deal. Let's get into it. The Deal is the first book in the off-campus series, and we're reviewing the third book. But so we got to talk about The Deal because I talk about it, or it ends up being a discussion in my book club all the time.
So the deal came up, like I think the deal, and there was a Kristen Callahan series that's the game on Hutch, I don't know, it's a hookup and friend zone, which by the way, characters from the deal and the score show up in that series.
Whoa.
The whole like, oh my god, I'm seeing like the novel. So I read those around the same time, and I remember being like, so I did not know the hockey existed. Like I knew hockey, but I did not know like, hockey romance existed, and I was just captivated by this whole idea of Hannah being like, I want to date this guy, but I can't. And, I don't feel worthy. And then Gary would be like, well, I'm going to fake date you and blah, 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 and save the day. But they're also dealt with like some real issues. Like she was like a rape survivor and like whole, like how to actually be open sexually and all these different things. Like there was a meaty plot,
Mhm.
that it was not just like the fake dating romance. And I was like, well, this is great. And so my favorite book is the second book. It's Logan Story, which is like
Mhm.
typically not nobody's favorite book, but it is my favorite book because there's a lot of groveling and like he grovels.
Oh, it's
He
intense.
messes up. Like
He
he
writes
messes up.
poems.
He writes poems. He does actually goes on a radio show and does this stuff. And I also love that Grace has a side hustle too. Like I was like, oh, Grace has her own radio show.
Mhm.
Like she needed to make friends and she needed to do that. And that's what I like about college is like, yeah, like you're fish out of water and you try to make a community in this place, in this bubble, and trying to do different things. And so yeah.
Yeah, what's crazy about, and talking about the first book and kind of like what our main character goes through, like it's a story about like also reconnecting with your sexuality, which is such a mature story, I think, like
Yeah.
but and I noticed that like in this world that it doesn't for me, and it could be different for you, but it doesn't feel like an actual college experience. Like these kids in a way feel more mature than I think college students are.
Yes, they do. I feel like this series in particular, it feels like there should be like, if you put them on 30, 40-year-olds, and you're probably going to be dealing with the same things. I would say Briar, you feels more like collegey. Uh,
Yeah.
but this one doesn't feel like collegey. And that's why I feel like it's stood the test of time. Like, yeah, there are parts that are dated. There are things that are like, obviously we're in 2016, 2015, but there's a lot of parts that I'm like, yeah, it can actually, if you change the setting, change the logistics, you can have the story tell like 35-year-old like going through the same stuff.
Mhm.
And it's so like will work well in that space.
Yeah, and I think, it's like I feel like sometimes I think like, okay, this is an alternate reality. Like that's to the point where I'm like, this is on a second Earth in a different reality where these are college students. And it's funny you say that because I feel like I got this recommendation from, people my age, and we're, 15 years and over away from college. And I'm like, really, college? I was surprised by it. And then I was like, oh, now I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This is like a good series too. Like if you haven't doubled into hockey, if you haven't doubled into college, you're like, I don't know, this is too far away. I would say this is a good gateway series to explore that aspect of it.
Totally. Cause like I feel like I was hesitant about college romance. Like as I got older, there was I was in my brain a little bit of like, I want to like when I started, I was like, oh, I should be reading romance where the main characters are my age, right? Like is that a thing? But then I realized with these, I'm like, oh wait, no, it's not.
No, there are some good college romans out there that are like they're fine, and like it's not a reality. They don't have to work, or they might have work study jobs. Like it's kind of like a reality of like, what if I leave my job and I just like have like a part-time gig, and my romance is my main priority.
Mm-hmm.
There's this alternate reality that you can explore in college romance that you probably wouldn't explore like in a job, like in a romance that I'm like, I have a job and I'm it's my boss and all these different things. It's like an office romance. It's like different. So
yeah, because I feel like with this book, or in the off-campus series, there is like this journey for them to like find their identity. It's a very mature journey, I think. Like it's like when you graduate college. Because like and it doesn't relate because I feel like my journey in college was like, can I drink 2 PBRs and not throw up? You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, and I think that's like a big part of it. I think my experience at college is like, I feel like it's unique enough because I work in a college for 10 years. So I got to be the adult, quote unquote, with all these college kids and trying to figure out. And I had those conversations like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And then the reality is being an adult 10 years after the fact and be like, well, actually, I don't know what I want to do. Actually, I don't know like what exactly. And I'm 40 and I'm still trying to figure out what my second or third act is going to look like.
Sure.
Like that's the beauty of it. Like, you just never know what your identity is. But I think it's so pronounced when you're 22 and you're like, I'm graduating with student loans and I need to make money and I need to get out of, and be an adult. Whatever that looks like.
Yeah. And it's like, I feel like you think you know how life is going to work out when you're 22. You just like, and then like all of a sudden you're 30 and you're like throwing a curveball, no matter like what level it is in your own journey. And you're just like, holy moly, I was not expecting this.
Yeah, I was not expecting to be a professional temp for 5 years.
Right.
But somehow that's what I stumble upon, like it's funny enough like how things work out. It's like you just got to trust the process, but I think sometimes we get so attached to our identity is our job, or identity is what we do. Our identity is like how we spend our time, that's how we are supposed to be. And we hear that so much, especially in college. I think graduation, like our parents are like, what are you going to do now? Where are you going to work? What are you going to do? Where are you going to spend your time? Like, how are you going to afford to live your life? Like, and then realizing like as an adult that you still don't know what it looks like.
Mm-hmm, totally. Well, I think this is a great way to transition into this book because I do feel like they take those journeys. So we are reviewing book 3 in this off-campus series. It's called The Score by Elle Kennedy. It is currently $4.99. Okay, so here's a quick synopsis. Dean De Laurentiis is sex on a hockey stick, and he knows it. He's always prided himself on being a one and done kind of guy. But when the caring, charming, and sexually adventurous Allie enters his life, and of all places, his bed, Dean realizes that this one and done is just too much fun for him to run.
I love this. The manwhore. He's a manwhore. He likes to have sex in public. He likes to have threesomes. He got cockblocked by a threesome. So, or an orgy. You know.
And like what boggles my mind is that this guy, he's 22 and he's had the sexual life of like a 44-year-old, you know, like it's just like you've done this, you've done that, you've tried like, and it's not even just like threesomes and like whatever, but like sex in public,
Yeah.
like kink, BDSM. He's done it all. And it's like, how did you have time for all that in your 22 years?
And he's playing hockey, you know, at a Division I school in an Ivy League school, because Friar is supposed to be Ivy League. So, and he's supposedly kicking ass in his police side. He's headed to Harvard Law. So, like, you know, how his time management skills, I would like to know what kind of time management skills he does. Like, how does he accomplish to do it all? You know,
it boggles my mind. That's another thing is like, even in the other books where like, you know, it's a team of hockey players, and even with the women, the female characters who don't play hockey, they have their own, like, like in this book, Allie's auditioning for things, and it's like that takes some, and she's in a play and she has to do this and take care of her dad, and it's like, how do you have this much time to go all night with the crazy sexual experimentation when it's like you just want to go to sleep?
I know. I know. I want to know how. Teach me the secrets.
I know. I just want to know like the energy, and like it's really funny because they mention like in this book, like Dean has so much energy, and the fact they even like, she even specifically mentions that like he never gets hangovers. He is on fire.
He's on fire. He's like accomplishing things over and over, doing it all. He doesn't have nothing stopping him. And yet that's his journey. His journey is like, it's something big. Ali's dad first out is our journey. It's like something big's gonna happen and he's gonna fall apart, you know? And like that's his journey. Like,
and he really does, to a large extent, like a surprising extent. Again, I mean, we can spoil whatever, but like again, it's a very mature way that he falls apart. Like it's not there, you know, he has a friend who dies, you know, and I think like what he goes through is like, it's not something, and I mean, I know 22-year-olds do go through those things, but it's not something you would expect until you're much older and start, you know, you're living more, and so you're seeing people around you who are dying more.
Yeah, I think that's like a big part of it. And like, you know, the fact that he definitely, like, even his bounce back was just like so mature. He was like, oh, do this stuff. He was like, I took responsibility. I had a drug test. I took drugs. I took responsibility, because he could have just said like, fuck it, pee in the cup and like, okay, you just kick me out. Like he went to the coach and said like, I took drugs, you know, sorry.
Like, and again, it's like, so it's like so funny to me because like, again, like he could have easily like kind of gotten out of this terrible phase of his life, you know, or, you know, this terrible kind of phase he was in without doing anything. Like he could have just like stopped drinking one day and just like ignored all of those people, never apologized, and easily moved on. But the fact, like, again, it's more mature than me, you know?
Yeah, he basically did the 12 steps, and I've done the 12 steps before, and he did them like cram them in like a week. He was like, he figured out his issues, he figured out the stuff, he made amends with everyone, he went on an apology tour, he realized people who should make amends to, not the ones he doesn't need to make amends to, which you need a sponsor to tell you that. Like, you need someone else to tell you, like, you should not go to the coach that hates you. Like, but he knew that coach, he does not get an apology.
Right. Yeah. And what was so great is that like, you would think like the way we're talking about it now, it's like, oh, this guy is just rushing through it to get to the end and like be okay. He was on the pace he needed to be on. Like, you know, it was just like, whoa, dude, you're more mature than literally every other adult who's older than you.
Yeah. So, which is surprisingly, because the way the persona that he's being sold at the beginning of the book is that he's a man whore.
Yeah.
And he's a rich man whore. A uber rich man whore who happens to play hockey. But he actually has like a solid friend group. Like he had friends that he goes to. He had relationships with his family, was good. Like everything was like in a good space.
Absolutely. And he was smart, you know, like he did his homework, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's what I really liked about this book, is that it kind of like, even with Allie's character, it kind of like questioned like kind of maybe the prejudices we have of like, you think of a guy who is in college, he's in a frat, he's a man whore, you don't think of him as smart, you know. And then with Allie, she is very sexually adventurous, and I totally like that about her character. For me, when I think of people, or I think most people when they think of someone who's maybe into kink or BDSM or just like things that maybe aren't vanilla, you automatically assume that they're non-monogamous for some reason, but she is very monogamous. And like, it kind of like it challenged me, as a reader of just like, oh yeah, why would I attach these sort of like personalities to people or lifestyles to people just because of like what they like in the bedroom or how they are sexually?
Yeah, I think Allie's character, she was like a nester. She was always in a relationship, and like even just asking to Dean to be like, I need to for myself. Like it was like very pure. Be like, oh, I've been in a relationship for like 10 years, or I don't know how long it was, like 7 years. And she was in a relationship. It was like, I need a break. I still need to figure out who I am as a person without having that extra baggage.
Yeah. And I think again, like that's another like sign of her maturity in this book of like, being able to take a break and having it work out, like at 22. Again, like it was like the decision she makes is so smart and mature and like it, again, mind-blowing.
Yeah.
What did you think about like just thinking about like the maturity level? She's also a caretaker of her father. And again, like I feel like that's not something I think typically a 22-year-old would endure or do.
Yeah. No, they probably wouldn't. They probably are too selfish to thinking about their college, what they're doing, all this stuff. And she's like thinking about her father. She chose a college that she could actually be nearby him, as opposed to go to UCLA. Like she was like, I got a full ride UCLA, but I chose to go to Broward because it's a close by. Like it's a and I can be there for him as best as possible.
Yeah.
I think it's understanding that she's also lost her mom at a young age. And so her family is important for her.
Yeah. And I love like how not Logan, Dean, well, all Logan too, but like, Dean in this book, like kind of just like understands that like, even though they maybe haven't, it takes a really long time for them to be like, oh wait, we're boyfriend and girlfriend, aren't we? Like, but like they're already doing it before the announcement of the proclamation of relationship. Dean's already like coming in being like, I'm ready to take care of you.
Yeah, like even just like, okay, we're gonna spend Thanksgiving together. Like I'm just in the ferns before being your boyfriend. Like he's like, oh, okay, I'll just go down there. Like it was like a sense of, and her dad did not like Dean.
No,
her dad made it very obvious that he did not like Dean, and it was like still like not a big issue. Like Allie was like, okay, I understand you don't like him, but I like him. So like just because your parents doesn't like the guy, like she's like, I like him, so I'm just gonna go with it. And Dean was still like was willing to suffer, quote unquote, someone who doesn't like him. And he didn't make this like big proclamation like you need to like me and blah blah blah. He was just very mature, like I guess he doesn't like me, but I'm gonna be here for her.
Yeah, I think there's like a theme, or like there was like this ongoing theme in this book, not theme, but I mean a theme. I'll come to it later, whatever I'm talking about. But there, for both these characters, everyone is telling them who they think they are, and like Dean, everyone's saying, Dean, you're a player, you're man whore, like you don't care about people. And then like other people are like, Allie, you're a monogamist, you care too much about people. And then it just gets to the point where it was feeling for them of like, can everyone stop telling me who I am?
Yeah. And I think I think it was pronounced when Dean fell apart, like the whole falling apart and then just coming back together. Like it had to come from Dean. It couldn't come from Allie. It couldn't come from Garrett. It couldn't come from Logan or Tucker. Like nobody could, or the coaches. It had to come from Dean to realize, like, okay, I need to stop the noise and I gotta trust, like I knew what I was supposed to be doing. Like, and I think in some ways it's like that's the journey that they go through, is like stop the noise from other people and trust that this is what it is. Like even when the proclamation like when Allie calls Dean in the middle of the night and tells Hannah and Garrett that they need to call Dean, and they're like freaking out. They're like, why is Dean like coming here? And Dean was like, shut up, like whatever, we're gonna deal with our own shit. And Allie was like, like, this is who we are. Like, it's not, we're not up for discussion. We're not up for like a sense of like, you need to have an opinion about me being with Dean. Like, it's just, this is what we're doing right now.
Yeah. Cause like in the beginning of the book, they kind of get this warning of like, from their mutual friends, like Hannah and, their other friends are like, whatever you do, you shouldn't hook up with each other. Like, Dean, you're this player, you don't do relationships. Allie, you only do relationships. For the love of God, you two don't hook up. But they do, of course. And so they have to keep it secret from their friends, who explicitly warn them, do not do this.
Yes. Yes. And I love the fact that you just came out and was like, well, this is who we are. Like, this is what's going on. Like, no questions asked, Yeah,
I thought it was like really empowering, like sex it kind of showed the empowerment of sex and attraction, and like, because they were using sex and they were using what they were doing to kind of find their identity there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So they also, but what's also interesting is that they need to keep this, their relationship, or their sexual, their fling in the beginning, very private. They know they should not tell their friends, right? But also at the same time, they both are turned on by the idea of getting caught, which added to the stakes, which I really liked.
Yes. Oh my gosh. The whole bathroom scene, the bathtub scene. That was just tough skits. Like the whole bathtub scene where, Dean was trying to be nice because she has a back pain. So he's going to grow a bath for her and bring her vibrator because we're just going to have fun with it. And then Allie's like, I don't want to get caught. People are coming over. And it's like, but they still want to get caught. Like they still want to like be found out like they're having sex,
Yeah. Like it's the idea of getting caught, not necessarily it actually happening. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
So. And like, I thought that was sexy in this book. Like, again, like it's like not anything that would probably cross your mind as in college, maybe, because you're just like still trying to find out what you like, but just like
but they knew what they like. They knew every position. They knew after chart sex. They knew what they like, what kind of like positions, sex, like whatever it is. Like they knew how to bring kinks. They knew how to bring toys. They knew how to bring, like they were more sexually mature than probably people my age.
Oh, same. Yeah, for sure. Well, we're probably the same age, but yeah, like, and there was and I think there's a level of confidence with. I mean, here's the thing: like the first time they hook up, they're already bringing in kink, which is like very interesting because you need, I think, with those kinds of things, you need a level of trust, and like it's like, nope, they already had it. No talking about it.
We're like, we're gonna do some bondage, we're gonna do some this. We're gonna do some this. They were like, we're gonna do it on the couch just in case somebody catches us.
Exactly. Yeah. And then he was like, well, I'll take you up to my room, which he never usually does. And they go wild, they do something that really takes a lot of trust, but they have it. They don't need to worry about it.
Even he tells her why he likes to have sex outside, why he doesn't like, and she was like, I already know why, like this is a question that everyone has on Dean, and I already know why. Like he trusts her enough to tell her his inner world, after the first night.
Yeah. What was really interesting is that in this beginning part, you see that, she comes over because she, just broke up with her boyfriend and she needs someone to babysit her, to keep her phone away from her because her ex-boyfriend is going to be texting her. She might text back. She might go back to him. But of course, the only one available is this total horn dog, Dean. Right. And so, they meet, that the two of them are, so hot for each other. And then, so you're seeing all of this tension. And then the next chapter is she wakes up in his bed the next day. So you don't have, and I know that there is a free story that Elle Kennedy wrote that you can download, but like in this book in particular, you you don't have it explicitly written on the page, which I thought was like an interesting choice.
I thought it was an interesting choice because it was like it made it seem like fade to black and made it seem like, okay, well, what happened? But at the same time, she used the device of like not flashbacks, but telling us what happened in very subtle ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like we knew, like, oh, that's when she's like, no, Dean told me why he's an exhibitionist. We don't know why he's an exhibitionist, but we know that he told her that. We know that we know that she used like bondage,
Mm-hmm.
and tied Dean to the bed, and we know they did it on the couch, and we knew the details, but we didn't know the logistics of it.
Yeah. And I thought it was really clever because I find Elle Kennedy's sex scenes, explicit and wild, and like kind of like she knows what her readers want, and I was like, when I read it, I was like, whoa, Elle Kennedy didn't write a sex scene when you think she would.
Yeah, but I think it merits a sense of like it kept it more fun in that way,
Mm-hmm.
because it kept the reader guessing, well, what kind of sex scenes are they going to have?
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
how wild is it going to be? Like, is it going to be too wild? Is it going to, and how does the sex scenes meet the character?
Yes.
Maybe we
Mm-hmm.
didn't know the characters well enough to get a first sex scene right away.
That's so true. Yeah.
We have to get to know them a little bit better before we like open up, like, stuff, because we knew this was going to be on a one night stand. That's what I try to sell. Like, it's a one night stand. They're never going to have it, but we know it's not. And so it kept us guessing like how their sex scenes is going to evolve.
Yeah, because like they give so many hints of like they run into each other and it's like, remember when I did that, and then they're also like, remember when I did that. I'm like, whoa, my god, what didn't happen that night?
And they were drunk. She was drunk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which also can be like, maybe she didn't want to, like, it could have been consent issues. Like, you can have a whole conversation about like, you're drunk and you should not be having sex. And maybe Elle Kennedy was thinking like, we're not gonna have a non-consensual sexual relationship.
Of course not. No. Or it's just like, I feel like, there's only 24 hours in a day, but maybe that one night the earth took a really long time to kind of revolve, and there were extra hours for them to have all of this sex.
Get it out of the system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's interesting because like you bring up like they have this one night stand. You think it's only going to be, this is the last time they're going to sleep together, but it's funny because they mention Dean is like, whoa, this is new. I want to have sex with someone again. And they actually bring up Twilight, which is funny.
Yes. Yes, this whole Twilight, and which actually has the device that I hate the most, which is my dick only works for your pussy. Like that I cannot stand it. I don't understand. Like, it's just like not true and all stuff. It does bring that her pussy was imprinted in his dick, and that's the only way that can get hard and all these different things. But they do bring Twilight, and it's funny enough to see Bo and Dean talk about Twilight.
That was fun because I feel like I've read Twilight in other romance novels just because, like, yeah, it's like kind of like, well, we're writing a contemporary romance. There are these characters. Like, we have Romeo and Juliet, and then like, what's a modern day one? It's like Edward and Bella, Yeah. And so I thought it was really funny. Like, I think Elle Kennedy is such a funny writer. And like, I thought the scene where he and Bo were discussing Twilight to kind of understand their feelings and to kind of like using it as like a way to kind of like process themselves as opposed to just like having a talk, I thought it was really interesting.
Well, I think it's important. I think it's like some ways is reflecting, like we use books to reflect our feelings, to figure out, like, get in touch with who we are and like what works, what doesn't work for us. And so it's funny enough, like she points out, like romance novels can help you get in touch with your feelings. As two straight men who are manwhore can talk about romance novels and be like, oh, this explains why so and so I can only get hard for this person.
And again, mature.
Yes, very mature.
Yeah, and it's like, it's funny because like the way they both talk is like immature, but they're also like very mature. Like, he's just like, he's just constantly like, I'm balls deep, and she was like ovaries deep, and my dick was so hard. But then when you think about like Proust and blah blah blah, like.
Yes. Oh yes. And then Bob was like, I never read Twilight. Oh, but I watched a movie. So it's a Jacob imprint,
Yeah.
like I can actually understand what you're talking about. I don't want to lose my man card by telling you that I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like the idea of, this fear of losing man cards it feels like maybe a tad dated, that, whether it's in movies or in books, and it's in this series, but it doesn't bother them to the point, like they're just like, oh, I might lose my man card anyway. So Twilight, blah 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 blah, like there isn't this like closeted or like internal homophobia or anything.
Yeah, I think it's just like interesting. They're like, it's one of those dated references. Like I feel
Mhm.
like that iPod was referenced a couple of
Mm.
times. Like I was
That's the
like,
one thing that bothers me about these books, by the way, is that they listen to iPods. It's the one thing that takes me out.
I was like, oh, this was written in 2015. I was like, thinking, I was like, didn't we have Spotify then? Like all I kept thinking was
Yeah.
like, when did Spotify came back? Like came out, like how do we
Spotify
get
came out way before that. We all had music on our phones in 2007, and
yeah. Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, why are we talking about iPods? I understand it was 2007, 2006. I had an iPod and stuff like that,
Mhm.
but at 2016, 2017, like iPods were no longer being used. Like we don't buy iPods anymore. I don't think do they exist anymore? I
I
don't think
don't
so.
know. I don't think they exist.
I
Who
don't,
knows?
yeah, I don't think so. I think it's our phone. So I was like out of the scope. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, like why don't you just use Spotify?
Right. Yeah. And it's like also like it's this detail that makes me think like this takes place in an alternate universe. You know what I mean? And it's like, it does, when I first read iPod, like, yes, it does take me out, but then I have to realize, no, this is an alternate universe where college is different. They actually call each other, they literally
Yeah.
call, which who does that?
Yes. Ali calls him. Ali picks up the phone and gives him a call. Yeah.
And I thought that scene was actually cute because she like writes a phrase and it's like the wrong phrase. And then he's like, hang on a second. And he like gets on the phone and he's like, the phrase is this, and I thought that what a great way to like, because calling someone these days is so, it's such a vulnerable thing to do. It's ballsy, it's gutsy. And like, that's the reason why he calls.
It is, and also DVDs. That was the other part. The DVD, the French series. He was like, I got the DVD from this place, and I was like, we're streaming. Like,
Yeah. Like what?
she was like, I got it from YouTube, and I had someone burn the DVD for me, and I'm like, watch it on YouTube.
Yeah. You can screen mirror, dude.
You can scream, like like I think it's interesting. It's like it's definitely dated. But there are cloud devices like picking up the phone is definitely a more vulnerable way to talk to one another.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something we normally do now in 2022,
Yeah.
but I think it worked. It worked for them.
Oh yeah, and I think it's like also one of those like very like smaller details of why older people who aren't in college can like it brings us in a little bit like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, our college experience, yeah, we did only have DVDs, we had iPods, like
Yeah.
there were
We
these things like
call.
we called, and as awful as it was, like we did it, so I think like as much as it's like, okay, this isn't like that now, it's also like, it also brings me in, oddly enough.
Yeah. Yeah, because it reminds me of my college experience. I was like, yeah, we had DVDs, we had this, we're not so reliable on our phones.
Mhm.
We're not reliable in texting and all this
Mhm.
different things. And just no social media. That was like the other part. Twitter was they only talk about Twitter, but it was like Twitter, like I just want to know the stats. Like there was no social media about like like I saw so and so, like, yes, there is some like they show pictures of Dean drinking,
Mhm.
but it wasn't like Dean manwhore here, Dean the social media, blah, blah, blah. Because they could use social media and like exploded with it, but they didn't. It was like, a regular amount of social media.
Yeah, it was such a background, way to like raise the stakes, but didn't really raise the stakes versus like, oh, if this were happening today, like the first thing they would talk about is like, oh, did you see his tweet? Or I mean, who do I know? What do I know? I'm older now, but like it just seems like Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, all these things would take like such a great precedence over calling. You know?
Yeah, like I don't know what he's been up to because I've been scrolling down his feed or I've been looking at his stories. I'm not even the feed. I'm just looking at stories or I'm just looking at TikToks and I'm looking at what you're doing,
Yeah, like they both get jealous of each other or jealous when they're with other people, and it's all because they heard that they were with other people. It's not via going on Instagram and like trying to fall asleep, but like secretly freaking out about like, oh my God, there's a picture of him with her and him with him and her, like.
So yeah, the social media was like an interesting part. I was like, oh, it's not as dating,
Yeah. Totally. So there was something that Allie says a lot when referring to sex is jiggly down.
I did not notice that, but it's just
I was like, what
does that mean?
I think it's just like boning, like she's like, oh wait, I wrote it down. I want to make sure I have it right. Jiggle down. She's like, are we really going to jiggle down again? And like Dean doesn't point that out of like, that's a wild way to phrase sex, right? Am I crazy?
It is crazy. I'm giggling because I'm like, why would you call it sex? Let's just do it again. Like it's bone, like,
yeah. And like, she says it so like casually, like it was just like, I think of like getting getting jiggy with it, that song that came out when I was in like 7th grade. And like,
yeah, but that's like, that's beyond her age, girl. Like, you know what I mean? This is not like regular, like, I don't know, it sounds like songs that we would listen to at that time.
Yeah, totally.
So
it is funny because they do listen to, a lot of them listen to like classic rock. Again, brings us in.
They ring the 80s. They ring 80s ballads, So I think it's just like maybe they listen to 90s Will Smith getting jiggy with it.
Yeah, maybe they do. Again, alternate universe. I feel weird bringing this up, but like, Allie is in a play and the playwright is like the name used is Brett Kavanaugh. That was
yes. Yes. And the fact that he was going to do an all male play.
I mean, it made me very uncomfortable. And I know that this was written pre, when we knew who Brett Kavanaugh was, but just seeing that name was jaw dropping reading it in 2022.
Yes, the name, I think the whole play, the whole thing, I was like, I don't know, it just smelled like Harvey Weinstein, vibes. Like I was like, it gives me like this icky vibes around this guy. Like I just felt like the feeling around it. I was like, I don't know, but obviously he's gonna give her the big break. But I was just like, I don't know, this does not age well.
No, and it's all it is a name, like I feel like if it was just like Brett Smithenson or something, I'd be like, okay, whatever. But the fact that it's Kavanaugh and like he's like, there is like sexism being brought up in his work, like not that he's not a character, it's literally just a name that's literally mentioned twice in this book.
No, 3 times. It's
3 times.
When she said that she spent a summer doing a play with him. Then when she goes and calls her and says like, I want to work with him, he's like, sorry kid, it's going to be all male cast. And then the 3rd time is when she got the big break. She's like, I don't need to do anything, I can just get a show, I'm going to be in HBO.
Yeah, it is so funny to me. I came out to LA to be an actor, and like how it's insanely hard it is. And she just has like, the world is her oyster in which she can turn down a Fox pilot. And like the fact that she can like, and it's like, again, that's so not realistic of like, if you were offered a Fox pilot, no reservation, if you're coming from college,
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, but you are not gonna have like, you're not gonna like, oh, it's a this heat and I'm just not gonna work, it's not a meaty role, and I cannot do 7 years of this non-meaty role. I'm like, I'm sorry, but like I think residuals, I think of like, like
you're not gonna work. Like your agent's not gonna send you out on anything anymore. Like you are gonna have to have your day job back. Like I just like think like, oh, like it's not anything that I think would happen in this world, just knowing.
The fact that they can wait and we're like, we're gonna audition people, but we're gonna take a tape from you. We're gonna like, I I'm like, because you cannot miss your play. I'm like, if you're a real actor, you probably be like, oh, fuck that play. I'm just gonna go,
Oh,
out
yeah.
there, audition, go around with 100, 200 million girls going for that role,
Yeah.
and you're not gonna turn it down.
Yeah. But listen, it was all about her journey to find her voice and, doing, and it's like, okay, it's not realistic at all. Worked for the story. It worked for the story.
It worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
They need to end up together in New York,
Yeah. And it's like they end up being together. And it's great. They both end, he's on track to be a lawyer at Harvard, but then he realizes he really likes teaching. And he finds a job as a teacher. And it's, the happily ever after here is really nice.
Yes, they do. And he finds a job teaching hockey for girls, which we saw that journey with Dakota when he was teaching her how to skate and all these different things. And I was like, yeah, he found the right job for him.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is all about finding what's right for you. Okay. So here's I want to ask you. So thinking about their journey here, both Allie and Dean's, they go through things in their life, and we as readers find comfort in books, particularly subgenres. So I'm going to ask you about each stop in this journey and what books you would recommend to them, or all of us who may be going through a similar journey. So this story starts off with Allie going through a breakup. What kind of book or subgenre would you recommend to someone who's going through a breakup?
So first of all, self-help. You gotta go.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
you gotta clear out the clutter. You gotta find yourself in power. But at the same time, I think looking at healthy relationships, it would be better than looking at toxic relationships. Because I think sometimes in breakup, you want to look at like be validated, but like reality is like you need to look at like actually there's a whole world out there. So healthy relationship, I would say stay away from Colleen Hoover. Stay away from that very toxic, very
she makes me uncomfortable.
Angsty, very stuff. Like go for like really fun rom-coms or like lighthearted. They're just kind of like funny and they're like really like bubble gum. You just go like eat them and you just like consume it and you don't think too much about it. Because that's a better distraction. At the same time, it gives you ideas of like what a healthy guy will look like,
Yeah. That's very true. I like that. Okay. So then they hook up with each other, the two of them, and she's very embarrassed by it. What is a type of book you would want to read? You do something very humiliating that you don't want to think about, so you're turning to a book so you don't think about. What kind of subgenre would you gravitate towards?
So I think first impressions, I would say look at kinks, look at something that are actually like, I think that's my gut instinct tells me read some BDSM.
Okay.
Read something outside of it that it's going to push your limits and it's going to be like, oh, there's actually like, there's a community aspect. There's actually a sense of like, trust and ways of doing it that gives you a sense of like, okay, your problem is not going to be as bad as that experience.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I love that. That's such a good point. I'm going to do that next time I do something embarrassing because it's every day. I'm going to be reading a lot of BDSM for the rest of my life now.
Read some Lexi Blake. Actually, that's a good BDSM starter. She has like I've been read her series. It's like 30 books deep. If you like romantic suspense, it's romantic suspense with BDSM.
Oh, cool.
So they're actually like, it's all stuff. And she does practice BDSM. So she like based it upon her experiences. So
that's interesting.
There's actually like, it feels like real world BDSM,
Yeah, which is like way different than book BDSM. Yeah, than 50 Shades. Absolutely. Yeah. Cause like, I feel like I was reading an article with Ruby Dixon and she was talking about like, people ask me like the sex stuff that happens, is that something you do in real life? And she's always like, do people ask people that when they write about serial killers, like or they write about murderers? It's like, that's like asking a writer, how do you murder in real life?
Yeah, how do you murder? So it's like, but I think that's Alexa Blake would be a good starter pack. It's the Masters and Mercenaries. There's like, I don't know, 30 books in that series. So there's enough that you can actually binge on. And there's like, there's polyamory, there's a little bit of everything.
Yeah. So. Awesome. Okay, so in the series, in this book, the Dean's team, they're not doing so well. They're losing game after game. Um, so what is a book that you would recommend when you're like feeling rejected, whether you're rejected for a job and you're just like feeling like you're not, you have a goal, but it doesn't get achieved?
Looking. I would say the Kristen Callahan series, her either her Rockstar series or her college campus, it's college football
Mhm.
series. Both can work for it. I like VIP. Is no manage is the one that I would say, like, because there's like something to be said about Scotty being a hero who could not sleep, but he finds his way to sleeping. Like, you realize, so like he feels like he rejects everyone around him, and then realizes like, oh, I actually have to accept this person because I can only sleep with her. You
Right.
know, real sleep, not having sex, just sleep. Like, he doesn't
Oh,
sleep at all. So he only sleeps with that girl. And so um so I think it's like, it's a sense of like, because you feel like your basic needs are not being met, and somehow this person, you realize like somehow another person can help you meet your basic needs.
oh, that's so sweet. I mean, that's what love is, and okay, so this final one it's also a question for you, is like when you are visiting family, it's like over Thanksgiving, because like I feel like in the first three books, there's always they visit, like they go to each other's house for Thanksgiving, like on Christmas. It's always there. I don't know about the rest of the books, but it's there in the rest of the books.
No, his mom, Tucker is an interesting book because he's building his business and he just brings his mom in because his
Okay.
mom lives in Texas.
Hmm.
So his mom comes in after the books, I think at the end of the books, but he doesn't travel.
Okay.
Sabrina's like all about work and Harvard.
Hmm. Okay. So you're traveling for Thanksgiving, you're staying with your family for Thanksgiving. What is a book? What type of subgenre do you gravitate towards? And should maybe give us an idea of what we should gravitate towards when we're visiting family.
It depends. If you have toxic family, a thriller will be great. Just
Hmm. Great.
something with serial killer, sociopath, and murder. So you can be like, oh, I can channel my murder intentions in
Love it.
that way.
Hmm.
If you don't have a toxic family, you have like someone who's like fun and stuff like that. I would say the rom-coms, like those like rom-coms that traditional publishers are being published, are like
Hmm.
easy, lighthearted. They're really not that deep, not that serious. Those can be going for you. Like
Hmm.
I would say Red, White, and Royal Blue, like The Worst Best Man, You Have Me at All, books are just kind of like, they're fun, they're being marketed just to be a fun escape that you can actually do, and they can just be like kind of like a little nice little bonus. But if you do have a toxic family, a murder book sounds great. I would
Hmm.
say reading the Mindfuck series was a great one. It's very addictive.
Hmm.
The serial killer, she's a female serial killer, and she falls in love with her FBI profile, and it's a romance. And it's so fucked up. So
I love it. Like because we were messaging for this panel that we're gonna do, and you were talking about a book that you were reading, and you're like, he goes through a journey where he goes from being a psychopath to a sociopath.
yes.
I'm like, what?
Yes.
What books is she into? I love this.
Yes, I have to say, like books about sociopaths and serial killers need a romance too. Like
It's
I'm
true.
loving this. I'm loving this niche. Like they
Hmm.
got murder on the side, and I'm like, oh, okay, but I need to fall in love or I need to have sex. Like these are my
Hmm.
basic needs. I need to meet them. So
Yeah. And so in these books, how do they end? Are they done serial killing, or is it just like,
I'm not gonna tell you.
God damn it? Yeah. I mean, that's
All
here's the
I
thing.
can
Like,
tell you,
that's a spoiler.
all I can tell you, it's a happily ever after. We don't
Okay.
know how the hell it's gonna work, but there's a happily ever after.
That's what I wanted to know.
There is, like, that's the beauty. It's a happily ever after. There's a reason why they're together, and it ends in romance. So it's not a love story, it's a romance, but the journey, are they gonna stop
Okay.
killing? Are they gonna stop chasing? Are they gonna do that stuff?
Hmm.
I tell you, but it
Okay.
works.
I'll take your word for it, because like it kind of scares me a little bit, but I need to get in on these darker.
I'll tell you offline. I'm just not on the podcast.
Okay, yeah, good. Thank you for taking care of the listeners and not just like me being all selfish of like, should I read this? Okay, so I'm gonna ask you for your final thoughts on the score and a rating. Now,
Mhm.
for the rating, in this book, Allie has named her favorite vibrator,
Insane.
Winston. So I'm going to ask you, how many Winstons do you rate it? 10 out of 10 Winstons means it's great. 1 out of 10 Winstons means it's you didn't like it. So,
So I would say it's a 9 out of 10. It's
mhm.
actually because I really love this series, and I think because it has a meaning with it, but the series is so good that I can keep rereading it and I'm still learning something more. So it's
Mhm.
not a 10 because that's Logan's book. So I gotta give that extra ones into the book too.
Cool. I I think I give it a 9 out of 10 Winstons. I honestly think this was my favorite one. I think I liked it more than the first two. I mean, I haven't read the rest, but I thought this was it was bonkers in the best way.
Yeah. Well, I would say Tucker's book is different.
Hmm.
Bar you, the one worth reading is Summer Fitzy. They get
Hmm.
together, so we
Okay.
know get a hint of that. But the rest of the Bar you not as good. And
Oh, okay.
the legacy is okay. It's just like the legacy is like what she gave to TikTokers, like book talkers,
Hmm.
after like being so enamored with the series. So she was like, "We're gonna give you an extra book," and it's just a book of epilogues. But yeah, I would say like they're Bar you, it had the potential, but it just doesn't. It's not the same.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. I just feel like when I read a book and like I write down notes and if I write down again and again, these characters are nuts. I know that I love it.
Yeah, yeah. So
So, before we wrap up, can tell us where we can find you on the social media and your podcast.
all right, so my podcast on Spotify and iTunes is What to Read Next podcast. You can look for What to Read Next and it'll pop up. There's 400 episodes, so you're more than
Ooh,
welcome
oh my
to
God.
download any. There's probably, if you have a favorite author, I probably have interviewed them when it comes to romance. So you might just find your favorite author telling you what book you should read.
Yeah, I mean, she has everyone. I'm just like, it's mind boggling. You're a
Yeah,
machine.
I'm a machine. And so that's for the podcast. And then on Insta, I'm What to Read Next Pod. And that's where I'm probably somewhat active. I take breaks from Insta, but if anything, you can DM me if you have questions about like what should I read, or I'm a new romance reader. I love new romance readers because you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to like. I can give recommendations for that.
Oh, that's so great. I love it. Well, Laura, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for doing this. And I love just chat.
Too Stupid to Live is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. For more podcasts you'll love, visit frolic.media/podcasts. Thank you so much for listening and have a great rest of your day.